in most videos about composing music, people do not write the music live. They put together the song beforehand and then turn on the various tracks. Or even sometimes if they are doing something live, they're kind of rewriting something they've already done. They're kind of visiting territory they've already been to, composing something they've practiced or something like that. Putting together a song is not exactly the same as writing music today. I'm going to compose some hopefully interesting new music in real time, and we'll see where it goes. Probably nowhere. Usually, I have to go through several entire songs to get one thing that I'm actually happy with. So the odds of this being something interesting that would actually show up on my next album, for instance, are slim. And really, I have no idea if I'll come up with anything at all, but I'm going to give it a go. I have Reaper open here. I use Reaper on Linux, so if it crashes, you know why. And this is my basic template, which has some rhythm stuff and keyboards and a bunch of synthesizers and some guitar inputs too. Input for hardware synthesizer as well. This is the basic setup, and you'll see the flow in a second. Almost always, I start out by just playing around on my piano. All my music is based around the piano, as you will see. I start out just trying to play random stuff, which I will be doing in a second, and this phase could last for hours or a couple minutes. I just woke up. I am not warm at all, so I'll warm up a little bit. I have as input here both a MIDI piano and the actual analog input from my Korg SV1, which is the keyboard that I use. So I am capturing both of those things at once, which I think makes for a nice sound, good full sound. It also has some limitations because since I'm capturing the actual analog sound from the keyboard, I can't change these parts like I would be able to with MIDI. Anyway, I'm going to turn off the microphone here and just play for a little bit and see if anything comes out of this. Anyway, that's mainly noodling. It occurs to me I should turn on the uh, keyboard viewer thing so you can see what's going on. I use this random plugin, and there you go. Put this down here. So far, my playing a little bit uninspired, kind of the same old stuff. Writing music for me, I'm trying to continually push myself and make more and more interesting things, make every album a quantum leap from the previous one. This is very difficult, and it means that you have to reject your instincts and your intuitions and go beyond what you would just sort of randomly play by default. So I'm going to try to play something a little more interesting now, and I have three things that I have sort of just floating around in the back of my mind for this. One of them is that I'm going to try to use some more inversions of chords. The other one is that I'm going to try to play some more parts where my left hand and my right hand are not in sync, which is a little hard to explain exactly what I mean by that. But there's almost sort of a classical-ish sound of having the two parts follow each other and occasionally intersect in interesting ways. And the final one is that I want to play more out of the key. And in fact, as a nice exercise, I like to sometimes just play something normally that's kind of within the key, and then just play some random notes and try to move farther and farther away from it. And then the real trick is to start moving the chords out of the key as well, and just be playing something that's totally free. And you can. It turns out keys are kind of a complete myth, and you can just play whatever the heck you want at any time, and it's fine. Works great. But it takes some effort to really get your mind into that headspace. So anyway, I'm going to try and play something more interesting now, and then hopefully some musical spark will come out of this, but we'll see. So I've identified sort of a decent progression there, which is kind of interesting, but this is still not, I think, pushing the boundary enough for me. So the next question is if I can figure out how to get this into an interesting time feel or get better interaction between the two hands. And I think I had that once. I played it once in a way that was kind of cool, but I couldn't get back to it exactly. There is a plugin for Reaper that will sort of silently record everything in the back end and allow you to like recall the last few things that have been recorded or played or whatever. I'm not sure if it works for audio, maybe just MIDI. But I kind of like the idea of actually being able to play the thing more than once and finding your way towards it on the keyboard and such. So I will probably try to refine that a little bit more. It might be a good time to start actually recording a few things just in case, and also to start bringing in the metronome, which I currently have set at 140, which is kind of arbitrary, and we'll kind of see where what I was just playing lands on that. May need to adjust it. We will see. Okay, maybe I'm just gonna play it as chords. Um, hmm, interesting. I think I want to shop around a little bit for a different keyboard sound. First of all, so I have another window open on a second monitor, by the way, that you cannot see, but it has the mixer with all the plugins, and I run most of these through a Wine Bridge. I forget what it's called. Uh, uh, but yeah, these are mostly Windows plugins running through Wine. One downside is that it's kind of hard to resize some of these things, so I just have to lean really close to the monitor. But I'm just going to explore a couple different presets here. That one is interesting. I kind of like the phaser. We'll see. Let me try the same progression if I can remember it. well, maybe that's interesting enough to do something. So we have the part. Sounds like I played it more or less in time, but we can fix it up later if not. Oh, oops, that's not the beginning. Hold on. Here we go. Usually on these projects, I will end up with many, many, many little sequences like this. And yeah, make these into a group or whatever so that something I do not like about Reaper. There's some setting to change this, but buried deep somewhere. Anyway, if you move things between tracks like this, it screws up the automation. Why does it do that? That's silly. And I think you can turn this off, but then if you move things side to side, you don't get, the automation doesn't come with it. So I'd like it to only move it on one track. And maybe you could do that, but I don't know. Okay, let's see. Moment of truth. Is this interesting at all? And does it loop correctly? Although who knows if I will want to loop it anyway, but let's see. Okay, so it does loop. You can sort of tell where the loop ends, but that's fine for now. At least keep in mind, right, I'm recording both the audio and the MIDI, so it's not just a case of fixing up the MIDI or quantizing or whatever. I also have the sound here, and this is by design to create a more analog, natural sound or whatever is what it is. But this sounds okay to me. Obviously, we're a long way from anywhere, but maybe this is a decent part. A huge, like, meta question in composing stuff like this is knowing when to move forward and when to dig more, because most parts don't sound that great on their own. Most bands have multiple people playing at once, jamming together, and they can figure out some cool idea together all at once. But when you're one person, you need to kind of put something down and then keep going. And it's very important to keep moving forward and not to get stuck on little details. But on the other hand, if you want to make good stuff, you got to get all the little details correctly. So I may come back to tweak the piano sound, for instance, or to get this part perfectly in sync or whatever. But the question is, can we do anything with this? And here's what I like about this part is the chord not happening on the second little time through this arpeggio. So right on this beat, I feel like there's a rhythmic kind of feel, like you can kind of feel the missing chord. That's kind of cool. So I may try and play a drum part here, and I am thinking about maybe I want to not have any hit on that part to really accentuate the kind of missing feeling there, which creates the kind of rhythmic thing or whatever. So I'm going to try a few drum parts. I play these all on the keyboard as well, so I'll keep the thing up here. I have a lot of experience at keyboard drumming. We'll see. Hopefully recording this doesn't slow down a little bit, because getting things with low latency is extremely important for this part. That's another reason, by the way, why I record my real keyboards, because I also have my output from my keyboard going through my interface as a direct return kind of thing, like direct through or whatever they call it. So I can hear the actual keyboard with zero latency as I play. And then the recording keyboard has a little bit of latency, and the MIDI keyboard has a little bit of latency, but the direct monitoring doesn't. With the drums, I can't really use that. So sometimes I am battling a little bit of a delay, but I've sort of optimized my setup to minimize that, kind of, anyway. I'm going to try some rhythmic ideas here, starting with kind of the most naive, and then trying to do something more unexpected. I think can really make or break a song with an unexpected sort of drum rhythm. But sometimes the most simple thing is great too. I don't know. I mean, think about the beginning of like Chameleon or something by Herbie Hancock. Like, just the way the drums come in on that is so interesting and kind of not exactly what you'd expect, but has so much energy and so much tension. So that's kind of the thing I'm trying to feel a little bit. And I already, like I said, kind of feel this piece has a bit of a pulse because of the missing chord on that beat. So let's see. But like I said, I'll probably start with something extremely simple and then go from there, similar to what I was just doing. Okay, let's. Okay, I think I maybe have something there. The um, drums coming in not at the beginning. Also, I realized the keyboard thing is still showing the keyboard track, so that's not that useful. One thing that's sort of annoying, there's a feature I really like in Logic that does not exist in Reaper and cannot be easily added, despite what all the Reaper fans tell you about it being super configurable and nice, and you do anything you want. Well, I would like it if I had a piano roll that was showing what I played for whichever track is selected, but you can't. So you have to open a plugin that shows the thing, put that on every track, switch between the two. It's a huge pain. So I really use that sparingly. The place where that sort of piano roll thing comes in handy is if you cannot remember how the song goes, or you haven't played it in a while, or something like this. I guess those are the same thing. You can cue that up and watch the song being played back. Oh, incredibly, incredibly useful. Um, anyway, yeah, the drums, you can see they don't come in at the beginning, and I think I had a couple of decent iterations of this, so we'll pick those out. Sometimes this sounds a lot worse when I go to listen back to it, so we'll see. But let's see about maybe looping this part. Silence is extremely powerful in music, and often I think interesting things are defined by sort of how little you can play, not how much you can play. Um, I'm not that great at that. My music tends to be extremely complicated and have a ton of notes, which is in some ways a virtue, but um, silence is golden sometimes. Okay, let's see what this sounds like. Well, there's something there. I turned you guys down in the middle of that, the audio going out to the recording, because it seemed like it was a little bit hot. Hopefully, that's not too much of a problem. Gonna keep working on the song either way. Who knows if I'll use the video? Okay. What comes next? Well, probably either melody or a bass part. Let's see here. Yeah, I have both a synth bass here, and I really don't like the sound of that at the moment, though. Random synth parts from a bunch of different plugins. Let's see about a bass part. I have no idea what this is going to sound like, but we might as well just go. I don't even totally remember the progression, but it's pretty simple. Well, oh, oops, still had the mic on. Hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I'll keep trying to play the things. My bass parts tend to be fairly simple. You may notice, by the way, that this progression is the same both times through. It just uses two inversions on the first one and has a couple seventh chords maybe on the second one. I forget exactly. But that makes the bass thing a little bit simpler. But yeah, I try to avoid just playing the root notes as the bass part, but it's sort of hard to avoid sometimes, especially when you don't actually, have a bass or know how to play one. But yeah, let me give this a couple more spins. Okay, there we go. I tried to put in some like grace notes. I think that's sort of important for basses. This is like one of the main things you miss when you have a synth bass is you don't have the dynamics that come with the individual notes like you would with a real bass. So, for instance, the difference between that and that's me just hitting the here. Let me stick the old this thing on, and we can make it taller too. Slightly different. There's the basic one, but then with some grace notes. So it's good to have a synth patch that allows you to do that. That has the what's it called, the glissando or whatever, going between two notes. Otherwise, it won't work. But anyway, I think I got a decent one. I like the at the end, especially the silence at the end feels like there's some tension here. So we'll see. Now I'm gonna put some sort of melody thing in here, but then we're gonna be coming up to one of the most like tricky parts of this whole game, which is getting from one part to the next, which is an especially big problem when you're composing on your own like this, and when you're doing things that are based on loops, because it's extremely easy to just continue and continue and continue the loop. And how do I get to the next part or whatever? Well, that's kind of the entire essence of music, I think, is the transitions between parts, or whatever. Maybe not the entire essence, but that's an extremely important part of music. I think that's what makes good songs and what creates momentum. Usually, it's how you get from one thing to the next. So I have a lot of different thoughts and ideas on this, but we'll come to that in a second. But for now, probably try and play some kind of melody, start naively on the piano, although I probably won't end up liking the sound of this. But let's see. At least remember, of course, that I did have some melody from my original jamming, something like that. So we'll see. Maybe that will come back into the fray. Maybe. Let's see. I think also, possibly, I should loop this guy. Probably not going to record at first. Did I loop that correctly? Yes. That's another thing I don't really like about at least the theme of Reaper that I have. At the moment, it's too hard to tell where the loop points in these clips are. Because of that, I often end up with loops that aren't quite the same length and they diverge over time. Anyway, that's probably just a theme, but I don't want to edit this theme because I want to write music. Okay. Okay. Decent first time through. I like the way it's working with the silences. This part is sort of fading to the background a little bit, so that'll be a note for mixing, or I may need to use another thing, double this part up or something like that. But I think the basic part is okay. Let's listen to it. Doing okay. I think this bass part might need to change. Seemed a little too busy, so I may fix that in a second. And then we'll get through here. I guess I like this note here. So let's just continue this on through the end of this part, and then it will be time to transition into something else. So we don't need all these. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Let's keep moving forward here to make some stuff. I'm gonna replay this bass part. I don't think it's quite right with the double notes. Um, but we'll see. Keep this guy around just in case. Although I know you can use takes or whatever, but the take system in Reaper is not very good in my opinion. So it's usually easier, especially when you're dealing with loops or whatever. Usually easier is to move that over there. Probably end up deleting it in a second. Anyway, but just in case I can never get this back, which is very unlikely, keep it for now. This part is almost too long. Like by the time we get, I feel like there's some decent momentum through this part of the melody, but by the time we get to here, not really. So I don't know. I could just cut it off in the middle. Sometimes that works nicely and is a good way to, avoid expectations. But we'll see. Energy's kind of descending here, so you can kind of already hear the next part or whatever, or at least you can kind of get the feel of the energy of the next part somewhat as this piano thing becomes a little bit less energetic. Let's try the bass again. Okay, cool melody. I'm gonna do a classic Mezenox trick here, something that I've done in many songs, and add a couple of bars here, and then repeat this thing. And who knows? Maybe I'll do it here instead. We'll see. But you'll see what I mean. But this kind of like upsets the rhythmic timing a little bit, and sort of sets the trap for repeating the part, puts the tension in the right places. Hopefully, you'll see. Well, that's the idea. I'm not sure I quite got the right part there, but yeah, I may try again in a second. We'll see. Okay, now we're getting someplace. Decent rhythmic feel here. Let's try it out a bass part. I think that my Reaper thing is lagging quite a bit more than they usually would because I'm recording the screen with the old pipe wire. But let's keep soldiering on. Hopefully it doesn't crash. Here's another thing I do not like about Reaper. As far as I know, you can't change this part. Maybe you can, and this is sort of related to what I was saying earlier about the take system, is Reaper's really unforgiving. If you have a little bit of an overlap like this, it will make your entire next track like a second take, or anything you record on this part here will be a second take. Terrible workflow. You never run into this problem in Logic, which also has a take system, but it's just way more intuitively designed, which is sort of the big takeaway from Reaper in general. It is extremely powerful and has a gazillion features, but the defaults are horrible, and it takes a ton of messing around to get it into a place that has a really like strong workflow compared to something like Logic, which is designed like that from the beginning. Makes it, I think, in general, for most people, way, way better. But hey, I'm on Linux, so what are you gonna do? Here's a place where maybe the simple bass part is exactly what you want. And in those ones, I'm trying to lay back on it as much as possible to accentuate that rhythmic part so it comes as late as possible, which I think is what happened. So now for a melody, and yeah, I'll just try and play this on the piano as well, even though this is probably a part that will need more thought later or something like that. But we'll get some kind of melody in there to carry things forward and then see if we can go someplace else with the song. Yeah, so I've done this a few times where what I'm trying to do is play a very simple melody, but once I kind of screw it up, then I usually just start randomly soloing over that part for fun, noodling. And we may have a solo at some part, but yeah, I like to keep it simple for now. So let's see if I can do that better. These extra measures in here give a really interesting opportunity to do something. Yeah, we'll see what that will be. Hmm. Well, that's a pretty good start. There is something here. But the question is, where do we go from here? And yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. I have mixed feelings so far. I don't really like this chromatic part that much. This part seems a little too simple. I don't know. Kind of need something else in here, but for now, probably best to just keep moving forward, I think, and try to develop things more. Um, Add some more parts. Yeah, as you can tell, I didn't really start at the beginning, and I don't ever really, which could be, I don't know, could be a mistake. It's one of the reasons why a lot of my music is so kind of meandering, but of course it's like that by design. That's the kind of music that I like. Interesting, surprising music. Um, and he says, while writing the most boring song ever made. No, I think there's a couple interesting pieces throughout here. But yeah, so this part is cool, and I think that as a solo section, this structure could go on for quite a while, and you could go up to 3 repeats and even 4. And I do wonder if I should put more at the end here, even before transitioning into something else. I'm not sure, but I think we'll save a solo thing for later because that's relatively like easy to do. One thing that I am going to do is move this guy to the beginning, even though, like I said, this will not be the beginning of the song, most likely. But where to go from here? Keep following the strange interlude thing, because I can hear another part after this. Or do we want to try to get some kind of more established song structure in here? Or should I eat lunch and do something else? Well, let's listen to it again. Well, I don't really like this part. Probably gonna delete it. I think that this progression, it's a little Daft Punk like. The that chord especially reminds me some of that song, Oxy Music by Alex Cameron. Great song. Has a really cool progression at the end, which is very much Daft Punk territory. How did that? That's not quite right. Um, I'm looking it up. Um, oh, wow. Nobody's made a nice little guitar chords section. That's kind of a shame. Oh, that's all it is. There's no middle chord there. Okay. Well, anyway, I think I'm running out of steam a little bit here, so maybe call it for there for today. Let me finish off by deleting this stuff, which wasn't very good, and maybe this piece will grow into something else. But as you can see, this stuff, hey, it takes a really long time. It's fun though, and a nice thing to, nice way to pass the time, and something that I find I can actually focus on, which is not super common these days. So who knows? I may, if I'm really feeling ambitious, I might try to record every time I work on this song, just so we can see how long it takes, and if this actually ends up going anywhere. Because even now, we're probably still not looking at something that will actually land on the old album. I have a new one in the works. I have 5 songs written. Well, I have about 15 songs. I have 4 or 5 that I actually like. And yeah, who knows? Probably take another 6 months or so to get that finished, but it's in